Orcs. Goblins. Ancient allies, but they aren't strangers to conflict, even during the holy, festive season of Greenskinmas. This year, the quality of gifts handed from Orc to Goblin and Goblin to Orc was at an all-time low. Both sides have been so angered by this that the only course of action is to return those gifts whence they came as fast as possible and with maximum aggression. So, ladies and gentlemen, that means, of course, that it's the brand new Kings of War push scenario, which is very similar to loot, only the idea is to carry the loot markers into the enemy half of the table, which is why you can see certain units already carrying loot. And we have 1500 points of goblins up against 1500 points of orcs. I don't know how they could possibly have met on this terrain, considering they're basing nice lush green fields and snow which hasn't melted in this underground lava cavern. But there you go. So let's go over the forces, shall we? Starting with the orcs. Right on the right flank of the orcs here, the left as I look at them. What have we got down here?
So first off, we've got an infantry character called Gakamak. The shrewd of you out there will notice that I've not used his very inspiring to good effect by putting him down here on the side, but there is a game plan, so we'll see. Next to him is a regiment of Gore Riders, and they're starting off with one of the loot tokens that they're going to try and force back into the Goblin side, and then leaving a huge gap all the way up to the centre of the board. We've got 3 regiments of Great Axe Warriors. The centre one containing another loot token. Ignoring the models on this particular unit here because they're not quite right. In front of those, 2 little Orclin troops. So they're just going to try and... Oh, regiments actually, Orclin regiments. So they're just going to try and get in the way and protect the rest of the army. Coming behind, we've got a flagger to give some inspiring. A war drum to boost the nerve of everybody in this range. And a God Speaker with a nice fireball spell. And then just to the left of the centre, a troop of Great Axe hiding behind that wall, followed up by a nice big horde of trolls. So the Gore Riders contain the Dwarven Ale artefact, which I forgot to mention before, to give them a bit of headstrong. The second artefact that we've got in the army, and the only other artefact, is the Brew of Sharpness, which is on the trolls. Just give them the +1 to hit.
Over to the goblins, and it's a very artifact light list today for once. So starting out on this flank, we have a regiment of Fleabag Riders. Slightly next to them we have a giant, and as we move along, a little bit of a gap, to the Spitter Horde, who are carrying one of the loot markers there. Then we have the infamous War Trombone, right next to a Sharp Stick Horde. And behind them we have a Flag Git and a Whiz, both mounted on Fleabags. The Flag Git has the Diadem of Dragonkind for his breath attack, and the Whiz has Bane Chant, which he's going to be using to good effect, I'm sure. As we slide along here, another little gap, all the way up to this Sharp Stick Thrower. This is the first time I'm going to be using that in a game, so we'll see how that does. And then we have the ultimate Troll Blob of Death. We have a Troll Bruiser and 2 Troll Hordes backing him up. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's going to be pretty tasty. Next to them we have a big Rock Thrower, also being used for the first time. So let's get on with it, shall we? If you didn't notice, this troll unit here also has one of the loot markers. The final loot marker being in the centre of the table. So we're going to have the roll off for the choice of first turn. You can probably guess which dice is going to be mine. So here we go. Oh, the orcs have it. So they're going to get to choose whether to go first or second.
And I think the orcs will go first.
Orc turn 1. And Mr. Boss Pants and his chums there, the cavalry, carrying one of the loot markers, have moved up a little bit towards this castle, staying just out of range of the Fleabag Riders, who they are quite concerned about, and Mr. Giant, of course. Over in the centre, this huge big orcish blob has moved up into one big lump, with these screening units out at the front, covering the trolls and the various Great Axe units. No shooting and no magic in range, so very uneventful turn, but they have closed the distance and I have a feeling they're about to be met with some serious goblin firepower that might all miss horribly. So by popular demand, we're going to be showing some nerve rolls in this game. So we're currently at the end of the shooting phase for the goblins. The big rock thrower, with its first ever shot, managed to successfully hit, and you can see that it's put 6 damage onto this Great Axe troop there, screening the trolls, so I'm hoping to possibly get rid of them. As we slide along, you can see that my forces have moved up a bit as well, in the general direction of the Orcs. Not too fast, because I am going to be out shooting them on the way. Then, the sharp stick thrower fired through this mighty crevice into the war drum and put 1 damage on it, so that successfully hit as well, which is quite a surprise. 2 war machines for the goblins hitting in 1 turn. Then, down here, the Wiz Bane chanted up these spitters, and they then fired their hail of arrows into the 1 unit nearby that wouldn't get any cover, which was quite important to them, which was this unit of Orclings, and they took 6 damage from that barrage. And not much moved in this little region here, but down here, the Fleabags and the Giant have positioned themselves out of charge range, but in position so the Fleabags could potentially unleash a charge if they see fit next turn, if the Orcs don't move. So, laying down a bit of a gauntlet there. So, we're going to go on to the live nerve rolls. There's not going to be a combat phase, so this will be the end of the turn. Let's start at this end with these Orc Great Axes, which are within range of the war drum, so their nerve is going to be boosted a bit, so let's see. So, the Great Axe nerve has been boosted to 12-14 by the war drum. They've taken 6 damage. Let's see if I can get rid of them. It's 6, which puts them up to 12, which is going to waver them. The Orcling nerve is 10-12, they've taken 6 damage, so let's see if I can get 4 to waver, 6 to destroy. 6, off they go, and they're not within inspiring range of anybody, so the first unit peeled off. So, the War Drum, it can't benefit from its own Great Thunder rule, so its nerve isn't boosted by itself. I assume that's just built into its stat line. So I'm going to try and remove it. It has a nerve of 11. It will be inspired though, so if I do get rid of it, I'll have to re-roll. So I'll need 2 lucky rolls in a row here to remove the War Drum. Here we go, it's taken 1 damage. Roll of a 10 twice in a row to get rid of it. No, cannot be done. So, just 1 casualty and 1 wavered unit in Goblin turn 1. Orc turn 2. And there hasn't been a whole lot of action yet again. But you can see here that these units have moved up to within charge range of the Giant and the Fleabags. They're asking to be charged, so they've obviously got something up their sleeve down there. As we slide on down here, these Great Axes have moved up towards the central loot marker, remaining out of the threat range of the War Trombone, it should be noted. So they're keeping that in mind. And then in this big blob here, there was a lot of wriggling and shenanigans going on to get the Orclings over here, causing a bit of a threat to the trolls perhaps, if they feel threatened by Orclings. And these trolls moved over the top of the wavered Great Axes. Those wanted to move back a little bit to allow the Orclings some space to manoeuvre. And the War Drum has moved up a little bit with the God Speaker as well. So, it's looking like the Goblins are going to be able to initiate quite a few charges in the next turn. We'll see how many of them I take, or whether I think that some of them are just bait and aren't worth it. Also, the Flagger moved up to spread his inspiring presence around the place. Okay, the first part of Goblin turn 2, and the Giant and the Fleabags have decided they were going to take the bait and go for a charge. There's no way they could get a double charge with the positioning of these units. They've taken 1 each, and we'll see how that goes. They're quietly confident. Down at this end, the Trolls had a little bit of trouble deciding where to go. They didn't want to double charge those trolls and risk not killing them since they're within inspiring and also range of the War Drum. So they decided they were just going to take a charge each to protect themselves from potential flanking manoeuvres. And these trolls with the loot have moved up behind them as well. The shooting phase was very, very uneventful because the big rock thrower missed, the sharp stick thrower missed, Bane Chant missed. However, these spitters did manage to put 1 damage onto these partially obscured Orc Great Axes here. So we're going to have a nerve roll now to see if I can waver them on a double 6. Here we go. Only a 10, so almost. And we're going to move into the combat phase now, and then we'll have some live, hardcore nerve action at the end of that. So, to recap the damage done in close combat, the Giant put 2 damage onto the cavalry here. The Fleabags put 4 onto Gakamak, so he's looking a bit worse for wear. Down over on this side, the Troll Horde put 6 damage onto the Orclings despite being hindered going through there. The Troll Bruiser actually damaged with all 5 of his attacks. I forgot to mention he has the Blade of Slashing, so he was able to re-roll the 1 miss that he had, and then converted all of those into wounds. So 5 onto the Trolls, so it might get lucky there. However, there is lots of inspiring and helpful units around here. So for the nerve rolls, we're going to start at this end with the Trolls. So 5 damage on them. So, with the War Drum nearby, their nerve is up to 16, 19. So I'm going to need to get 11 just to waver them. So here we go. Ooh, when I saw that 6, but no, not quite. So with the War Drum nearby, the Orclings are up to 12, 14 for their nerve. So I need 6 to waver them. Here we go. Oh, they're toast.
But they are inspired.
But they're inspired, so I'm going to have to toast them again. Here we go. Can they be double toasted, or are they going to survive? Oh, they're okay. So they're hanging in there. Which might not actually be too bad looking at this. We'll see how that works out, but I'm feeling it's not as bad as it could have been. Over on this side, I'm going to assume that the Giant is going to need a double 6 to waver the cavalry.
Yeah, the 13, 15.
Right, so it'll technically need 11 to waver them. So here we go. No, nowhere near. So they're fine. Gakamak, 13, 15, so 9 to waver. Here we go. Oh, it's a 2 and a 3. Not enough. So no successful nerve rolls there, but damage has been inflicted and the battle lines have been firmly drawn now. So the first part of the Orc turn 3 and its countercharge city over here. Countercharges from both of these units, as expected. Over here the Orclings and the Trolls have countercharged the Trolls and the Troll Bruiser. These Orc Great Axes have moved up a little bit as well, behind the Orclings, ready to fill that gap when it inevitably appears. And there's been a little bit of backing away as well from the Orcs. The unit with the loot counter have moved back, and this unit in the centre have moved a little bit out of range as well. I think they're very terrified of this war trombone, which has just been staring at them for the whole game. Hasn't been able to shoot yet, but I think that death stare has been enough to petrify them, so they've moved backwards. Although technically petrified would mean that they were still, so let's forget that one. The God Speaker launched a fireball into this troll unit, so he's hoping that he's going to get a nice double 6 and waver them. So let's have that live roll right here, shall we? Here we go. Not quite. So we're going to move into the combat phase, and then we'll come back for some more juicy nerve-rolling action. So down here, the Gore Riders put 5 damage on the Giant. Gakamak put 5 on the Fleabags, so I'm a bit concerned for their well-being. Down here, the Orclings put 2 on the Trolls. The Orc Trolls put 5 on the Troll Bruiser, which isn't very nice. So let's start with the Troll Bruiser, shall we? So, he is nerve 12 and 15. So it will be 10 would completely get rid of him, although it will be self-inspiring. 8 to waver. So he is wavered. The regular Trolls, their nerve is 14, 17, so 12 to waver.
4.
Not this time. So, Fleabag Riders, 12 and 14 on the nerve, so 7 to waver. Here we go. Oh, it's a 6, and what's that one?
4.
It's a 4,
10.
so that's 10.
15.
Off they go. Wow, wow. And Mr. Giant with his nerve of 17, 19. So 12 to waver, which won't do much good because he can still countercharge, but it's worth a go anyway. Nope. So the first goblin casualties inflicted right there. The flea bags went down in one hit, as they tend to do. So it's not looking quite so healthy over here anymore. So for the first part of Goblin turn 3, all the charges were going on here. The Troll Bruiser couldn't though, because he's wavered. But these trolls did go in to help out against those trolls, and these ones went into the Orclings again, and you can see a few damage points have come back with the regen. In the middle here, the Goblins have started to push forward a bit since the Orcs are retreating, so we're pushing towards that loot token, including the Flag Git, who got in range to use his breath attack. The Archers, the Spitters should I say, have hopped up over the wall, which meant that they were going to be at -1 to hit when shooting, but they want to make a bit of ground since everyone's backing away from them. And the Giant countercharged into the cavalry as well. In the shooting phase, the big rock thrower successfully hit on the God Speaker and put 3 damage on him, so he's going to need nerve in a minute. And then the sharp stick thrower and the breath attack from the Flag Git fired at this Orc unit. The breath attack did absolutely nothing, but 4 damage in total has been inflicted on that unit now. And the Archers were Bane chanted up and then unleashed their Arrow Fury all the way over here at that Orc Great Axe unit, putting 2 damage points on them, so they're going to need some nerve as well. So let's get straight to it. So the God Speaker with the War Drum right there is up to nerve 12, 14. So it's going to need 11 to remove him completely, or 9 to waver him. He's out of inspiring range as well. So here we go. Would like a nice big roll here. Have I rolled a D3?
Not a D3.
Get rid of that. It's 9, so he's wavered. So these Orc Great Axes with nerve 14, 16, they're not in inspiring range, so 10 will waver, 12 will remove. Here we go. Don't have a D3 this time. It's only 4, so nothing on them. And this Orc unit here, they're in inspiring range and they're also in range of the War Drum, so I'm going to need a double 6 just to waver them. Here we go. Nope, so they're not waved either. So going into the combat phase, and then we'll come back with some more juicy nerve rolls. The Giant piled 4 damage onto them, so you can see they're up to 6 now. So they're not quite at death's door yet, but they're getting there slowly. Down here the 2 units of Trolls struck. This unit on the Orclings put 7 more damage on them, so they're going to be on double 1s in a minute. And this unit of Trolls put quite a bit onto those Trolls there, so they're up to 9. So potential to get rid of them, but they do have the drum backing them up. So let's get some nerve action, shall we? So the Gore Riders with their nerve 13 and 15.
7 to waver.
7 to waver, 9 to remove, but that would require a re-roll. So here we go. 6. So nothing. So time for the Orclings
to die.
2 attempts at double 1, otherwise the Orclings are dead. Here we go. First roll. Not this time. Second roll. No, they're extra dead. So 16, 19 nerve for the Trolls because of the War Drum right there, which is very, very tasty. They've taken 9 damage, so 7 or 10. 7 to waver, 10 to remove, but that would need to happen twice. Here we go. Nothing at all. So there was no shooting in the Orc turn, so here's the recap of the entire turn and the results of the combat, minus nerve, because we're going to get that live and juicy in a moment. So, both these units here charged into the Giant, and you can see they've piled the damage on him. Mainly this dude down here who did 7 damage to him, after the cavalry had kind of failed a bit with their rolling. In the middle here, this unit are just standing there, staring down the Goblin menace, whereas their brethren, carrying the loot marker, have backed up all the way to the back of the table there. So they don't like the look of this fight at all. The Orc Great Axe unit here charged into the Trolls, and you can see they've got them up to 3 damage, so not a huge amount. These Trolls, though, had a bit of more luck against the Bruiser. He's up to 10 now, so he could be on the way out shortly if he's not lucky. So we're going to go to some nerve rolling action right now. Shall we just start with the bruiser? So he's got a nerve of 12 and 15, so 2 to waver, 5 to kill, but he is self-inspiring. Here we go. So that would kill him, but let's see if we can do it again. Yes, off he goes. Mr. Bruiser is dead. He'll be bruising no more. So this one here, it'll need an 11 to waver these trolls.
It's going to be a good roll.
There we go. Not quite.
Nothing.
And Mr. Giant, it's going to be a 6 to waver him or an 8 to destroy him. So this could be quite a big moment here in the context of the game. It's a 3 and it's a 2, so not quite enough. So the Giant is 100% fine. He shrugs off those spears to the knees that he took, and he's going to be fighting again shortly. Partway into Goblin turn 4, and the Giant has countercharged the cavalry there, so he's hoping to finish them off and deprive them of that loot. Down here the Spitters have moved up a little bit. They tried to go at the double as fast as they could before they hit the difficult terrain. Their aim is obviously to get that loot marker into the opposition half, which they may struggle to do. Only a few turns left. Here, the Sharpsticks didn't charge the Orcs. They decided they were going to just jump onto that loot marker instead and let the Bane-chanted War Trombone and the Breath Attack from the Flag Git do the damage instead. So they're up to 11, so we're going to roll that in a minute. Down here, of course, the 2 troll units charged into the Orcs and the trolls there. The big rock thrower missed as it fired at the wizard again, so he's not going to be wavered next turn, so he's actually going to be able to do something. And there wasn't much for the sharpstick thrower to do, so it's turned round to face in this direction, aiming down that side of the table just in case any of the orc units prevail on my left flank and make it beyond this castle into my half. Maybe I'd be able to get a shot at them. So now it's time for the nerve roll on these orcs here. They are 14, 16. I've got them up to 11, so 3 to waver, 5 to remove. This would be a good time to have a decent roll here. Here we go. It's 9. Off they go. Orc unit blown to smithereens with the war trombone and the diadem of dragonkind. So this area isn't under a huge amount of threat now, and maybe these goblins can make a push into the enemy territory with that loot. Okay, a very fruitful combat phase, and you can see that these orcs here are up to 10 damage now. The Giant unleashed his fury on them. Down here the 2 troll units did tremendous amounts of damage as well, so we've got the orcs up to 10, and these trolls are now on 15, so they're really at death's door. If it wasn't for this war drum, they would be in real trouble, but they've still got a chance. Well, they've got that and the inspiring flag around them as well. So let's start with these trolls then. So they're up to 15, their nerve has been boosted to...
Trolls are now 16, 19.
So I need 4 to get rid of them twice in a row. Here we go. So that would do it, because that one's a 5. So let's do it again. The suspense, the drama. 3. So they're only wavered. Wow. Now it's time for the orcs. They've taken 10 damage so far. What's their nerve?
So nerve is 14, 16, but the war drum puts them to 16, 18.
Right, so 6 to waver, 8 twice to remove. Here we go. That would do it. And the suspense, the drama. Oh, off they go. We can say bye-bye to the orcs. Now, onto the Gore Riders. They've taken 10 damage with a nerve of 13, 15, so 5 twice in a row to get rid of them because of his inspiring presence. So here we go. It's a 3, so they're only wavered. So that loot is still in their possession. Orc turn 5. And Mr. Godspeaker has sent a fireball into these trolls and put 1 damage on them. And you may notice there's a bit more space here, because all these units have backed up a bit, which is one of the few things you can do when wavered. So they've cleared a bit of space out there. This cowardly unit of Orc Great Axes with their loot have decided, you know what, we're probably going to lose, so if we come in and challenge this unit of Sharpsticks to a duel to the death, maybe we could beat them, steal their loot, get it into the opposition half, and double our money, as it were, and maybe snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. The cavalry with their dwarven ale, despite that they weren't able to shrug off the effects of wavered, But the giant has still been flank charged though, so he's going to take a bit more punishment, so he could go down this turn, freeing up the path for that unit to get the loot into my half. So we've got some live nerve now for this troll unit. A double 6 will waver them. Here we go. Nope, fireball was not enough to waver those trolls carrying the loot. It should be pointed out the trolls are just about a millimetre away from being entirely in the opposition half, which is what would be required to double their points for the loot marker. So if they'd been wavered there, that would have been quite bad news. So the only close combat, Gakamak smacked the giant around a bit, put 5 damage on him, so he's now on 18. So he's on double 1s to live. So let's see, he's not inspired, so 1 shot at a double 1 for the giant to survive. No, he's dead. Giant goes bye-bye, freeing up this flank. Goblin turn 5, and the trolls decided the only thing for it was to form a super duper troll sandwich. So there is a huge amount of trolls, 2 hordes, slamming into another horde, maybe the most trolls ever seen on screen, who knows. The Sharpstick horde decided to accept the challenge of the Orcs and charge straight into them, and they have been Bane chanted as well by the wizard. The Flag Git also moved up as well and used his Diadem of Dragonkind to put quite a lot of damage on the War Drum, so I'm hoping to see the end of that shortly. Also, you may notice that the Flagger has lost 3 damage as well. That's because the big rock thrower did that to him, so I might get rid of him as well with a bit of luck. So we're going to do nerve rolls for the shooting phase and then move into the combat. So first things first, I have to decide whether to try and remove the flag or the war drum first. Which one do I think is more important? We'll be back when I've pondered that. So I've elected to try and remove the drum first to stop that +2 and its pesky ways. So I've got up to 6, it has a nerve of 11, so I need 5 on the dice twice in a row because of the flagger right next to him. Here we go, the first roll. That's going to do it with a 10. And the next one, the drama, the suspense. It's 7. Off goes Mr. Drum.
He's gone.
He has drummed his last drum. Now it's time for Mr. Flagger, who is no longer benefiting from the drum. The rhythmic music in his ears is no longer helping him out. So
he's 9-11.
9 and 11. He's taken 3, so that's going to be 6 to waver. 8 twice in a row to remove. Nothing. So he's perfectly happy with taking a rock to the face. So the gigantic troll mountain piled on a huge amount of damage to them, so they're going to be on double 1s in a second. And over here the sharp sticks put 7 damage onto these orcs, so potential to get rid of them as well. But let's do the fun one first. Here we go, the trolls, 2 chances at a double 1 because they are within inspiring range. Here we go, the first roll. Nope.
Yeah, nearly.
Got half of it. And the second roll. You can feel that tension. You can cut it with a knife.
Hey.
Oh, it's a double 6 instead. So off they go. Troll on troll action ends in the outnumbered trolls being lightly toasted. Now I've got these orcs here who've taken 7 damage. So what is their nerve?
14-16.
14-16.
7 to waver.
7 to waver, 9 to remove. They are out of inspiring range. So here we go. The suspense. It's 9.
Ooh.
Off they go, and the Sharpsticks steal their loot marker as well. So the Sharpsticks, they were kind of sitting there doing nothing for a lot of the game, but they've really come through here and taken out those orcs in 1 hit. With the assist from Bane Chant, I think. So it's looking very much in the Goblins' favour at the moment. There's not a whole lot of orcs left. They're really going to have to do something crazy in the final, possibly the final turn, to turn this one round. They do still have some survivors down here. Let's see if they can possibly turn this around with minimal numbers. So Orc turn 6, maybe the last turn. So this unit have just dashed into my half with that loot counter, risking potentially being shot at by that, but they have to do it because they need to get those double points to have any chance whatsoever. Then, as we swing down here to the last remnants of the Orc flank over here, a fireball was put onto these trolls here, putting 1 damage on them, so we're going to see if they can get a double 6 to waver them now.
Oh, we can't see what it is. Certainly not a double 6.
Although one of the dice has gone walkabout.
There he is.
There we go.
It was a 6.
It was actually a 6, but this one let them down. You can see that there's been a double charge onto this unit of trolls as well, carrying the loot, so maybe they can take them out. We'll find out shortly. So the result of the close combat, 7 damage were piled onto the trolls. Well, 6 were, so they're up to 7 now. And that means it's going to be 7 to waver them, or 10 to remove them, which would pass the loot over to the orcs. So here we go. Let's have that dice roll. It's 8. So they are wavered. So Goblin turn 6. The Spitters move into the orc half with their loot, which is nice. The Sharp Sticks push even further in. These trolls charge into the Flagger, and these ones are wavered, so they can't do anything. And the Flag Git has moved up here just in case I need some inspiring in case we go to a turn 7, which I'm not sure would make much difference anyway. But these trolls put quite a bit of damage on him, so he is about to require some nerve. So what do we need here?
Double 1.
Double 1 twice in a row. Here we go. Well, that one's a 2, so it can't fail, and that one was a 2 as well. So let's go again. Yep, he's dead.
2 doubles.
Off he goes. So, the orcs are looking very thin on the ground now, as we are about to roll to see if the game ends. They've got 1 troop of orc great axes there, who are heavily damaged. They've got this god speaker, who has taken some damage as well. And then on this flank, they're looking reasonably alright. They've taken damage over here, but there's no one around to threaten them. But I don't think it's going to be enough to make up for the fact that the goblins have all these units piled in their half with those loot markers. So let's roll 1 to 3. It's all over.
Yay!
Game over. So we'll total up the victory points just to do it by the book, and then we'll reflect on this epic battle. Okay, so the goblins have 8 victory points, 8 loot points if you will, because they've managed to push all their loot markers into the enemy half, returning those unwanted gifts without much trouble at all. And the orcs have only got this one, so that's 2 victory points for them. So that's 8 to 2. And I think in kills, it was probably equally one-sided as well. If we look at the orc dead pile here, there's quite a lot of dead orcs there. And the goblin dead pile, who are sharing a bit of space with dead zone troops at the moment, not much at all. So I think the orcs were very, very compact in the centre at the start, but didn't really bring their troops to bear and were just kind of eating shots to the face, weren't they, for a lot of it?
Yeah, I think I needed to do it a lot differently, really.
Needed some more ruthless aggression down the middle, I think, the orcs, didn't they?
Yeah, I didn't. The whole thing I didn't start very well. I think I should have probably given one of the loot tokens to the trolls, sat them at the back perhaps, and put the great axe units at the front and just charged everybody forward. Because I didn't have anything to counter your shooting. And then obviously Gakamak was way out with the Gore Riders on the flank, which they kind of worked well as a little combo together, but that was needed more in the centre with everything else probably. I probably should have not worried about your giant as much, and stuck him where he should have been with his inspiring.
Yeah, with that super duper inspiring range, you could have possibly had your flagger over with them and maybe had him in the middle. Perhaps.
Yeah, I just did it wrong. Yeah, did it wrong. I think. Yeah, I'm a bit rusty. Not played for a couple of months, and that's my excuse anyway.
With the goblins, my thought process behind putting the loot marker on these guys, even though they were a bit of a static unit, was that at some point in the game, when everyone gets bogged down in combat, they effectively become useless. And because he had quite a lot of stuff in the centre and on this side, I thought, once they become useless and everyone's locked in combat, I'll just run them as fast as they can towards the enemy half, because there wouldn't be anything else for them to do. So that was their mission. The trolls, with the loot, it was pretty obvious because they're quite tough, so the chances are they were going to hold on to it, especially since they had troll buddies around here as well. And the central one, your orcs didn't really want to advance on that because they were worried about the likes of the war trombone, but I think maybe if 2 units of orcs had just piled in there, it might have been better because they ended up getting picked off one by one, didn't they?
Yeah, I got that wrong in the middle as well. I was dilly-dallying around with two units of orcs that I should have just pushed forward, really. Should have definitely been more aggressive. Not played with the orcs that much yet, and I've not played much in general for a while, so definitely need to sharpen up a little bit. But
I do like that scenario, actually. It's a nice twist on the loot, isn't it? Having to push into the enemy half.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't put much thought into where I was putting the loot tokens at first, but it actually is really important. I mean, I didn't even think about putting the loot token on the Gore Riders. I didn't think it'd slow them down, about the slowing down until the game started, and then once you realise they're down to speed 5, that was a bit of a blunder as well, really.
It's good to get that practice in as well before coming up against that scenario at a tournament without any practice. So I think that was useful.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to bring more Gore Riders next time. Got a few more units at home, so needed a bit more speed as well.
Yeah, I think I'm fairly happy with this Goblin list. I get quite a lot for the 1500 points because I've went for minimal artifacts. I only had 2.
Yeah, it gets stronger every time I play it, because if you think this is only a 1500 point game, you've got 2 hordes of trolls with the Bruiser, which is really difficult to get through. And then you've got some real good artillery pieces, and a couple of hordes thrown in as well. So it's a really solid list, I think.
Well, when you say good artillery pieces, I think a lot of people would testify they're terrible, but I did have some good rolling with them today. Landed a few nice hits. Yeah, I'm not sure they actually removed that many units, but they did put a lot of damage on things, didn't they?
They did some early damage, which then made it difficult in the combat. My trolls and the Great Axe unit there, the troop, they were injured from the start pretty much. So they were always fighting an uphill battle as well.
Yeah, War Trombone always does well. I think the big block of the 2 troll hordes and the Bruiser, definitely that's going to be my go-to combo in the future. Because having just one horde of trolls, people tend to focus on it, and once that's gone, that's all my reliable, hard-hitting power down the drain. So having 2 of them gives people a lot more to think about.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, hope you enjoyed that game. I'm sure the Orcs won't enjoy having to go back home with all those unwanted gifts. I'm not sure what they were exactly. Maybe like a goblin hair grooming kit that wasn't particularly impressive. Perhaps some kind of exercise device that the goblins knew would just be left under their bed for the next 5 years, never used. So the Orcs have got to take them all home and maybe return them as long as they've still got the receipt. But you know what Orcs are like, they probably don't. Anyway, let's get the old left-handed handshake in there.